Here are the 3 things that I think you should know about the law for the restoration of professional civil service that passed today on April 7th, but in 1933. And then I'm going to follow it up with one petty thing that I wanted to share just because, fairs. First, notice that the name for the law is the law for the restoration of professional civil service, right? This is the law that made it illegal for German Jewish people to serve as teachers, professors, civil servants of any kind. But it was framed as the restoration of something, the returning to something, even though that something had never existed in Germany. That something was a new idea, but being presented as historical context. The second thing I want you to notice is that this was not just about Jewish people, even though it was presented primarily about Jewish people. That the law included the language that says civil servants who, after their previous political activities, cannot guarantee that they will always stand up for the national state without reservation, were also tended to by this law. That means that anybody who had protested against the government, spoken against the government, said things that made them think that they would no longer act regardless of what the action was in the response to the national state, could be and would be fired, and their positions would be removed. The third thing I want you to know is that this was also framed as simplification of administration. So the law said that Jewish people and people who had spoken out against the government would be removed, but those positions would not be refilled. So these were state-filled positions generally, state-funded positions, and they were not to be immediately rebuilt. This was also about clearing out of bureaucracy, clearing out of unnecessary levels of government. And these were not teachers that were promptly being replaced. These were empty positions that were being left empty at the whim of the government from that point forward. So those are the 3 things. Restoration, speaking to a past that didn't actually exist, that this applied to civil servants who had spoken out against Hitler or against the Nazi government, and that this was framed under the post-1929, 1930 depression hitting, was framed as partially a anti-bureaucracy, anti-administration, cost-cutting sort of measure. And then the petty piece, the guy who created this law and really pushed it through, his name was Wilhelm Frick. He is one of the few examples of men who generally, when we have these guys coming through Nazi Germany doing big things, the pictures that we see in the history books are of them polished in uniforms, looking clean-shaven with their little Nazi hats on. And Wilhelm Frick survived the war. And when you look up pictures of him, you see him sitting, scruffy, sadly, in a jail cell in his scrubs. And I'm glad that one small bit of propaganda, that all these men are polished and looking very, very powerful, fell apart for this particular guy who wrote this particular law, and history captured him looking very sad and like he'd done something very bad and was now going to court for it.